Welcome, everyone, to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Soul Evolution Mastery, the 7-week journey to apply the wisdom of your guides, soul archetype, and interplanetary past lives. I'm Lisa Bonise, and I'm really looking forward to hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Dr. Linda Backman and address questions about her upcoming 7-week course, Soul Evolution Mastery, which begins Tuesday, May 29th. Later, I'll explain how you can participate in this course, even if you can't attend the live sessions. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Dr. Linda Backman is a licensed psychologist and has been in private practice for over 30 years. She's received training in numerous traditional and non-traditional techniques, including between lives soul regression therapy, past life regression therapy, and shamanic soul retrieval. Linda is the author of Bringing Your Soul to Light and The Evolving Soul. Her newest book, Souls on Earth, Exploring Interplanetary Past Lives, will be available this summer. Linda provides individual sessions and workshops all over the world and abroad. Actually, that's abroad too. In just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions, but first I want to welcome Linda, who will begin our call by telling us a little bit about her work and her upcoming course. Welcome, Linda. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. It's always a pleasure to be back with you. Some of the folks out there know that, you and I have worked together a whole variety of times, so it's great to be here. I think about this term, soul evolution mastery. And I want everybody to think about, one, you are a soul. You are a soul in body, having come into body to evolve and grow. We don't gain our soul's evolution outside the body. We gain it lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. And, so when we talk about mastery, that's a tricky word. Do we ever fully master our soul? Well, first of all, I think that's for our guides to decide. But secondly, that's the foundation of this new course. So we'll be working on how do you, in an ongoing way, how do you continue to master who you are, why you're here, how to connect with your guides so you can move forward through your ongoing mastering. Who are those guides? What's your purpose in body? How are your past lives showing up in your current life? How do you heal karma? How do you embrace dharma? How do you embrace what you've accomplished as a soul? And then we're going to dive into a couple of very, in my opinion, important and deep subjects. What's your soul archetype? Now, this will be, I would say, a new perspective for most people on what's your soul nature? Why do you have that soul nature? Working on accepting it, trusting it, and also understanding, have most of your lives been on Earth? How does that make you unique? Have most of your lives not been on Earth? How does that make you unique? And I'll just circle back around to what's crucial, which is the focus of the very first class, is strengthening, and trusting your ability to intuit and receive the guidance that comes from, we might say, the higher realm, that comes from the spiritual realm. We are never alone. We are always guided by spiritual guides, angelic beings, loved ones. And so by mastering, understanding our soul and trusting and expanding our intuition, we grow and we evolve. So we're going to dive deep into this 7-week course of understanding more deeply. Who are we? Where have we come from? Why are we here? What are our unique unique gifts? And I would also say, what's the purpose of our challenges that we deal with? So that's just kind of a quickie overview, Lisa, of where we're headed in 7 weeks.
Great. Thank you, Linda. And now we have the rest of our time together for our viewers to ask questions for Linda as we prepare for her upcoming course. Again, that's called Soul Evolution Mastery, and it begins Tuesday, May 29th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about Linda's 7-week course, you can visit soulevolutioncourse.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get started with questions. If you have a question for Linda, you can go ahead and type it in, and I'll be happy to read it aloud. And in the meantime, we've got plenty of questions already coming in, so let's go ahead and get started. I've got a question here from Judy, who says, I call upon several guides, but how do I discover who my primary guide is?
Okay, good. And let me just say, as people think about questions and with more coming in, no question is too far-fetched, in my opinion. Ask away. So Judy, I believe you're right. We have a primary, you might call it your soul guide or your lead guide. It's kind of like the coordinator or leader of your team of guides. Two thoughts about answering that question. Number one would be ask a guide. If a guide comes in, say to them, ask them, are you my primary guide? Usually they're going to tell you, and they're not usually so, it's not like guides don't have any ego, but they're not going to try to pull the wool over your eyes. Ask them. And also trust that your primary guide is probably the guide you hear from the most often, okay? Another way of thinking about it is when you think about your guides, if you have a loved one that comes in moderately often and serves as a guide, that is probably not your lead guide or your senior guide. That is probably a member of your team of guides. So those are just kind of some rules of thumb, how to determine who's your main guide.
Okay, thank you. It's very helpful. On that same topic, Sam has a question that says, if our higher self is as high as we can go, what's beyond that?
Yeah. Cool questions. Okay. First of all, as you just said, Sam, your higher self is your highest level of soul. It's so funny. I want to say soul mastery. It's your highest level of soul evolution. Well, first off, your main spiritual guide is more evolved than you, or they wouldn't have been designated as your lead guide, as your main soul guide. But above your guide are guides, okay? Usually, how to say this? We are never guided as a main guide. I'm trying to think of how to explain this so it's clear. The highest level of soul evolution is not going to be our main guide. Now, so then some of you are saying, well, so what do you mean, Linda? What's the highest level of soul evolution? Highest level of soul evolution we might call with different names. Think about all the names that you think about or that you're comfortable with. Could be Great Spirit, could be the Source, could be the Tao, might be God, might be Archangel Michael, for example. So above your higher self are many levels of higher soul evolution. Evolution is never at a perfect point. The universe is continuing to evolve, to expand. And so there are absolutely more evolved levels of wisdom above any of our higher selves.
Okay, so it almost seems like you're saying that our higher self is as expanded as we can get and still be connected consciously to our self. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, I would say that just slightly differently, Lisa. Yes, it is. So what is your higher self? So perhaps let me give just a little bit more detail about that. When we come into body, we bring a portion of our soul energy. So everybody think about soul energy just like a pie. You cut out a slice of pie. It's all holographic. It's like a fractal. You cut out a slice of your soul pie. You bring that into body and it causes you to be alive at birth. The remainder of your soul energy is in the spiritual realm at all times. We call that your higher self. And yes, we have the ability to access our higher self, and our higher self actually serves as one of our guides. But our higher self, another way to say it would be our soul self, another way to say it would be our superconscious. Our higher self is guided because we have guides. So yes, we can access, you might say, above our higher self because we can access our guides.
Okay, thank you. We've got a question here from Linda, who says, are all relationships soul contracts arranged between lifetimes? If you fall in love, is it really just a strong karmic attraction?
So now I'm wondering, maybe we can, even if you have a hit about this, Lisa. So if you fall in love with someone, boy, big questions with lots of answers. If you fall in love, it is likely, but not a sure thing, that person you're falling in love with, that there was some plan or opportunity set in motion either before you came into body, or opportunities can be put into motion, if you will, when we're in body. Still, at the very same time, anytime we fall in love with someone, I always hate to make statements that sound like 100%, this is the way it is, but 99.9%. The way I believe it is, if you fall in love with someone, you have karma with that someone. Does that mean that you shouldn't be connecting with them? You shouldn't be falling in love with them? No, doesn't mean that. But karma is so common, and we wouldn't be coming into body if we didn't have karma. So it's karmic, and it is almost for sure planned.
Okay, thank you. We've got a question here from Brenda, who says, what if you have the physical symptoms of an awakening and feel like you should be hearing the information you need, but you aren't getting the messages?
Okay. That's great. That's a great question. The complete foundation of this course is how to strengthen and trust your intuition. So overall, trusting our intuition is really important. So often we don't know how to access it. We don't know what are the various ways our intuition works. We don't know how and when to trust our intuition. And intuition is, I think, hugely misunderstood. It's like most people think, or many people think, that intuition is purely clairvoyance. That if I'm getting something intuitive, I need to close my eyes, as I will here briefly, and, I get it in pictures. No, there are many other ways we receive intuitive information. If you asked a very capable channeler medium, they would say, I receive intuition in a variety of ways. Sometimes it is pictures. Sometimes it's an emotion. Sometimes it's a physical sensation. Sometimes it's pure thought. So we're going to be working, I would say diligently, maybe not hard to make it difficult, but diligently in this course on strengthening your intuition. And please, everybody, don't think that Linda was born and at age 3, she was very capably intuitive and knew it and used it, and, the rest is history. That's not true. I learned how to access my intuition in my later 40s and into my 50s.
Okay, so it's never too late. Good to know. Got a question here from Cheryl Lynn, who says, is there any process you use when beginning a meditation or hypnotic session to set the intention that only those of divine love and light and service to others are allowed to communicate with you?
Well, first of all, the question and the way it's asked is a main part of how you do it. It's through intention, and it's through belief that you can set that intention, that you can say what was just a part of the content of that question, only those that, that are coming in pure intention, pure love, pure light are welcome. And I believe that if we stay out of our fears, if we don't let our fears rule us, do all of us have fears? Sure. We're in human bodies, so we have fears. It's a question of learning to, because I think it is a learning process, to not be ruled by our fears. And yes, put out that direct intention. I do this when I guide clients, and I speak it out loud, to only have the highest energy and the most, the energy that's to serve the highest good for you to be present. It's protection. It's like use a bubble of light, use some oil of lavender to protect yourself. Do a ritual before you start any spiritual practice. And I believe what happens, and I think it's happened for me, that over time, this is not true 100% of the time for me, but over time, guides begin to, let me say it differently, not guides, but we might say negative energy, nefarious energy, begins to get the sense of, oh, I can't tamper here. He or she isn't going to let me step in. Do I still, me personally, have nefarious energy that tries to step in on rare occasion? Yes. And what I like to call nefarious energy will try to get at me when I'm at a less protected point. Maybe I'm extremely tired. Maybe I'm not feeling overly well. Maybe I'm away from my foundation, whether it's my life partner or where I live. Push it away. Say, all you need to do is just intend. Push it away and say, no, thank you. You are not welcome here. Please leave my energy space.
Okay, thank you for that. And for those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Dr. Linda Backman, learning about her upcoming course, Soul Evolution Mastery, which begins on Tuesday, May 29th. And you can log on to soulevolutioncourse.com for all the details and to register. That is Soul Evolution Course, 3 words with no spaces between them. So we'll get back to the questions here. We've got a question here from Terry, who says, after my dad passed, he was in contact with a few members of the family. Now he seems to only communicate with one of us on a regular basis, even though others are open to it. Can you help me to understand why he seems to be limiting his contact?
Well, I would, that brings up questions in my mind. Things like, is there something that Terry's trying to work out? Is there something that, soul to soul, across the veil? Is there something there that Terry's trying to work out? Or another possibility that I see sometimes is when there's a grief situation, when there's a loss situation, if we are deeply, deeply, painfully grieving, that's normal. It's to be expected, so please don't judge yourself. when we're deeply grieving, the soul on the other side may be having their own experience of struggling with how much in pain the loved one is. But, I follow my hits. So what happens for me as I just pause briefly as I'm answering the question, my hit is there's something important that's karmic, that's healing, that's being released by this communication across the veil to one person. I would say to the others, try to be patient. That doesn't mean you're not going to be able to connect with this loved one on the other side of the veil.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Let's take a question here from Jen, who says, I'm new to all of this, and I'm starting to finally embrace my true self as being an empath and an intuitive individual. How do I begin the process of communicating with my spirit guides?
Wow. Okay, Jim, thank you for asking that. So again, I don't mean to keep coming back around to the foundation of the course, but we're going to work hard on, in the beginning class or two, getting you connected. So what we'll hear in the class, in class number 1, is think about what is your strongest ability that's intuitive. Do you generally connect with emotions? Can you pick up on the emotion of someone else? That says you're probably clairsentient. What are your stronger abilities? Are you more left-brained? Are you more intellectual and logical in your everyday life? That probably means intuitively, thought is one of your strongest intuitive abilities. Are you more a feeling-oriented person, a creative-oriented person? Then emotions might be your strongest intuitive ability. So we're going to work on that a great deal because, again, I think that is an important step. Took me a long time to trust that I could be intuitive. Actually, I practiced it. Here's another suggestion. Play with it. Like, give me a sign. You're going downtown somewhere and you're needing to find a parking place. Give me a mental hit of at which corner I should turn. Play around with your intuition in something very simple and non-crucial in terms of the outcome.
Okay, thank you. I got a question here from Lee, who says, how will this course build on your previous courses with the shift?
Yeah, I'm glad, Lee, that you've asked that. And one of the ways that I formulated this class is just that. I sat down thinking, with what topics did we not go deep enough because we were covering so many other topics? What topics need expansion? What topics require deepening? And honestly, what topics, let me see how to say this. When we think about soul mastery, what are those fine-tuning topics, we might say? So first is rather foundational. It's like, trust your guides and your guidance. We're going to talk about not just how do guides show up, but how do you find guidance in the circumstances of your life? And then even to take that deeper, we're going to spend 2 whole classes on what is your soul archetype that doesn't change lifetime to lifetime? What's that nature of yours that is has permanence, and that rather than judging yourself, you need to accept it? So we're gonna dive very far into understanding soul archetype, and then we're gonna dive far into what makes you unique in regard to your past lives. Have most of those lives been on Earth? And how might you know that? Have most of those past lives not been on Earth? What does that mean about your gifts, your challenges, perhaps how misunderstood you are? Perhaps it explains some health challenges. We're going to talk about common, in the broadest way, health challenges for interplanetary past lives. We didn't dive into that in anywhere near the detail in the previous courses that I've taught.
Okay, thank you. We've got a question here from Sarita, who says, do we ever incarnate to a lifetime in an era that has already passed? Like, say, after this lifetime, would it ever happen that we came back into the 1800s or something like that?
Okay. Well, I would say to you, Sarita, what is really important, and you know, I have just a few perspectives in my work that I feel are rather crucial. We evolve in linear time. We evolve in real time. We evolve based on what we're doing today and the next tomorrow and the day after that. I honestly believe the notion that all time periods are happening at once is honestly not true in regard to soul evolution. So what we're doing today is affecting our ongoing soul evolution. We don't go backward. We don't incarnate, you know, in our next lifetime in 1640. So that's a great question.
Okay, thank you. I got a question here from Victoria, who says, is there a way to make sure that two souls or a group of souls that are meant to be in the same space together can stay together without wasting nearly an entire lifetime getting to them?
I think for me, Lisa, if you will, read that one more time because, please, if you will, I'm trying to be sure I understand what's being asked.
Okay. She's saying, is there a way to make sure that two souls or a group of souls that are meant to be in the same space together can stay together without wasting nearly an entire lifetime getting to them?
So I'm wondering if the questioner is asking, can we remain friends with certain people? Can we remain in romantic partnership with certain people? And, you know, I guess my best answer to that interesting question is let it flow. I think as humans, and I'm guilty of this as much as anybody else, we need to try not to overly control circumstances because, and I hear my guides screaming at me, so I think this is important to be said, our guides will bring back around, whether it's a person, a circumstance, a job, an opportunity, they're going to bring it back around with the timing that they feel is most useful, that we don't need to really work hard to like force timing. That doesn't mean we don't need to be committed to people in our life and that sort of thing. But I think at times as humans, and like I say, I do this too, we need to trust and allow circumstances to flow because our guides are going to show us what it is we need to be working on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then let me ask a question that would follow up to that. This was from Monique, and she's asking, I think, about something that you talked about in your original call with Stephen Dinan. She says that you said that our guides can cause certain things to not happen for us if we're going in the wrong direction, with the example that if we're pursuing a career path that isn't meant for us, we won't get those kinds of jobs. But why do our guides allow us to fail and fail and fail instead of just showing us the right path?
Oh, I love it. You know, this is the fun part about questions and answers. The bottom line is soul evolution and soul mastery, that really is all interrelated, means we do the work. Okay? Now, I bet most of you listening to this live Q&A think about some of the toughest times in your life where you might say you tripped and fell, quote unquote, or you might say you had a really major loss that was very, very painful. You had to walk that journey. We learn by tripping and falling. Now, do we always have to trip and fall in order to learn? No. But it's like going to school. If you're an elementary school child and you need to take an arithmetic test, the teacher's not going to give you the answers. You have to find the answers. That's how soul evolution works, quite honestly, plain and simple.
Okay, whether you like it or not, huh?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, we've got a question here from Kat who says, when a person walks up to me and says, I know you from someplace, you look awfully familiar, and I tell them I don't know you now, but maybe a different time. Could this be possible?
I'm going to give two separate answers to that. Yes, 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 this could be possible. Oh, I recognize you because we've known each other before. That happens a lot, actually. That's quite common. Then, to stretch people's minds, maybe it won't stretch everybody's minds, as we evolve more highly as a soul, we at times have simultaneous incarnations. We can be in more than one body at the same time. And at times we meet someone that may feel familiar to us because, and this is not common, but it happens, we meet someone that feels just so familiar. And it's because there's someone else in our life or someone else we've known who is actually that same soul. And so when you think about evolving as a soul, as we reach more accomplished levels of soul evolution, we have greater capability to evolve. But we also sometimes speed up our soul evolution by coming into a body in more than one body simultaneously.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a question from Sonia who says, can you tell us about incarnated angels and whether they also have the same type of journey?
Okay. Well, Sonia, again, great question. The angelic realm or angelic souls or angelic energy is somewhat different than another type of guide. And so the angelic realm is always very highly evolved soul energy. It's simply different. The angelic realm works very closely with the highest realm. Remember, we can use all kinds of words for that: the source, the Tao, Great Spirit, God, many other terms. And angelic, my understanding from years of regression work is that the angelic realm rarely incarnates in an embodied fashion like on Earth. But it isn't impossible. I really do believe I've had a few clients in my practice over the years who discovered, and I believe it was valid, that they are the energy of what we call the angelic realm.
Okay, thank you for that. This next question, because I know you well enough, Linda, I think I know how you're going to answer this one, but I'm going to leave this to you. This is a question from Christine, who says, why is it that so many things seem old to me, even when they're brand new? Material things and places and the way people think and act. It seems that so many things are far behind, including technology, and the catching up to where we are is supposed to be takes far too long.
Well, it'd be interesting if you end up deciding, Lisa, this is how you think I would answer. But at any rate, my thoughts about that are one, that someone who feels like things need to catch up, one, you're probably an experienced soul. Now, let me just be sure I say experienced souls are no better than anybody else. And experienced souls had to slog through, trudge through lots and lots and lots of learning and still have learning. Two possibilities beyond that. We have had eras of time when we've had eras of time on the earth where we were more advanced, but we made poor choices as humans. One would be Lemuria and Atlantis. So it's possible there's memory of the capability that existed in that era of time. And also, and this is an important topic in this class, we're going to dig deep into who are interplanetary souls, where do they come from, why are they here, what do they struggle with, what do they know about that's unique. Interplanetary souls have had experience in locations in the celestial realm that are more evolved than Earth. And so basically, interplanetary souls know that there are higher levels of evolved ways of life or technology and that kind of thing somewhere else in the universe.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Good, good.
Okay, we got a question here from Pat who says, do we recognize our family members when we depart?
Now, I wonder if Pat is asking, when we depart, can we still connect with our family members because we can still recognize them? And if that's the question, the answer is absolutely yes. And let me just add, when we depart, so let's think about third dimension, fourth dimension, and fifth dimension, or some people say 3D, 4D, 5D. 3D is Earth, okay? 4D is that energetic frequency between Earth and the higher realm. And 5D is what I would call the higher realm, and there is energy above that, beyond. So 5D, 6D, that does exist. When our loved ones pass, their energy for not necessarily a long period of time, and I don't want people to start thinking about, oh, my loved one is stuck. That is not what I'm referring to. But when our loved ones pass, they may remain in 5D for some period of time, days, weeks, perhaps months. That makes it easier for them to connect with loved ones that are still on Earth or in 3D. Now, that doesn't mean that just because a loved one has moved on to fifth dimension, that they can't drop their frequency down to connect. But loved ones kind of hang out for a while in 4D.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a sort of related question from Allie, who says, if my mother were to die, does she continue to be my mother in the astral world?
I love questions because I think they're all so important. Okay. So I'll just use my own mother as an example. My mother passed almost, not quite, but almost exactly 4 years ago. She communicates with me periodically. So, is she still my mother embodied? Well, of course not. But is she still, I feel this with my own mom, and trust me, she was not always such an easy peasy kind of person in her human life. She supports me, she encourages me. In some ways, she's more nurturing now than she ever was before. So in that respect, she's still my mom. And that leads me to another comment that I think really needs to be said as we're moving through questions. And let me just comment briefly about karma and dharma. So probably all of you know what is karma. Karma is what are those human free will choices that I made either in life today or in past lives that weren't the best choices that my guides would wish that I would balance or clean up? Okay? So actually, sometimes when my mom is supporting me, I think that we're both working on cleaning up karma and having a more comfortable, supportive relationship. Dharma is, what have we accomplished that we intended as a soul to accomplish? We bring our past life dharma or our past life accomplishments into our life today, and we need to keep building on those. So, great question.
Okay, thank you. Well, looking at the clock here, we have time for a few more questions, but before we take those, I want to give a few details about the course itself. Again, it's called Soul Evolution Mastery, and this is going to be just a fascinating 7-week journey under Linda's guidance where you'll deepen your connection with and receive support from your council of guides and align your life purpose with your soul's archetype. You'll also master lessons carried over from your past lives to heal and transform yourself and your relationships. The 7-week course takes place on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, starting Tuesday, May 29th. And if you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss the teachings. You'll receive audio and video replays, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage. And also, I'd like to remind you that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you a full 2 weeks until June 12th in this case to make sure that you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can stay connected with one another. Also, everyone who registers receives the Soul Evolution Mastery Bonus Collection. First, you'll receive a PDF article and PDF book chapter from Linda Backman entitled Soul Discovery Teachings. Then you'll get an audio teaching from Linda called The 7 Soul Archetypes and Your Soul Evolution and Humanity's Soul Evolution. Next, you'll receive an audio presentation from Linda Backman entitled Past Lives and the Time Between, The Purpose of Your Life Today. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Thursday, May 24th, you'll receive an additional bonus gift, and that is an audio dialogue with Robert Moss, hosted by Lori Schwanbeck, titled Dreaming More Soul into Life. And before we get back into questions, Linda, let me ask, what are you most looking forward to sharing in your upcoming course?
You know, Lisa, when I think about that, and it's kind of hard to subdivide it into what am I most excited about, but I think the topics that I mentioned earlier, that in previous courses there just wasn't time and space to really go into, and that is, what is your soul nature or soul archetype? How does it build on the other archetypes? How do you interrelate with the other archetypes? How does your soul archetype, what is the reason that soul archetype is needed on the planet? How does it relate to humanity's evolution? So we're going to really delve deeply into soul archetype, and one of my favorite topics is lives not on the earth. That is more common than we might think. It's more common among experienced souls. I bet lots and lots, if not all of the listeners, are experienced souls, certainly beyond average. And this new book and the excerpt you talked about from the book is from this new book that's coming out this summer. It is all about, what are interplanetary souls? What gifts and challenges do you have? Why are you here? And how can you stay here to keep supporting the progress of humanity? And I'll just say briefly to people that often the diagnoses on the autistic spectrum, diagnoses of autoimmune disorders, ADHD, a lot of digestive issues, tie to interplanetary soul experience. So I guess if I had to say what I'm excited about, those are the topics.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it as well. And while we're on the topic, Carmen wants to know, what are some of the planets that interplanetary souls come from?
Okay. That's often asked. And so, Carmen, we think about the classic locations that many of us who are interested in astronomy talk about. So there are souls that come from the Pleiades, from Sirius, from Arcturus. But, and the reason I say but is because I work with a lot of clients who either never learn the name of where they come from, or the name of where they come from is unfamiliar to us. Interplanetary souls come from and incarnate, have past lives in places that not only are planets, they're star systems. They might be within our solar system or outside of our solar system. And they often or at times are places where there is no density, what we might call an interdimensional space. So yes, those familiar names fit into the picture, but it's far beyond that.
Okay, thank you. We've got a question here from Kathleen, who says, I've been told that I was a queen in Scotland. I was abdicated from the throne and beheaded. My love for Scotland has always been, since I can remember, it has been almost obsessive. I've had neck pain for the last 35 years. Could this be some trauma that I'm still experiencing?
That is absolutely the common reason, or one common reason, that people seek to know their past lives. Because when we discover our past lives, we can discover what happened in those lives, and that allows us to work on releasing those traumas. So the answer is a resounding yes, that our past lives show up in our current life. And one way they can show up is through the symptoms in our body. So once we latch on to the specifics of what happened, and once we believe and trust that it's real, then the releasing of the symptom is much easier. So yes, I think, Carmen, you're absolutely on the right track.
Okay, thank you. Got a question here from Girija, who says, how does a soul choose the country? For example, could a soul choose a difficult country knowing well the deprivations?
Yes, boy, I love the depth of the thoughts of all of you coming up with questions. So the country, the geography of where we incarnate is determined before we come into body, obviously. It's determined, we might say, in conference with our guides as we plan lives. So we plan where to come into body, where geographically to come into body with purpose. And at times we come into body in places that perhaps aren't so easy, whether it's politics or lack of infrastructure and that sort of thing, because we're either learning, we're either cleaning up our karma, or we may be bringing in our dharma, our capability to help in those locations. So yes, it's always purposeful where we happen to be born, and we often have some sense of familiarity. Like I've had a number of lives high up in mountainous regions. Well, today I don't live high in a mountainous region, but I actually live in Colorado at about 5,400 feet, and I love the mountains. It's past life related.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. I got a question here from the letter S. How do we ultimately become soul guides if we do? Where do they come from, and do they have their own guides?
Well, the simple answer to that, S, is that you are working on evolving as a soul, because we all are, and we are required to do that. But ultimately, your work on becoming a more highly evolved soul is ultimately because we are expected to become guides. We are expected to evolve to the point that we can serve as guides. If we serve as guides, we have more highly evolved souls that serve as our support people or serve as our guides at the soul level. So at this point in time, the guides in the higher realm, what we think of as, there is such a thing as the High Council of Earth. There is such a thing as the Interplanetary High Council. If you're no longer incarnating because you have become highly evolved, you have, let me say this so it's clear. If you're no longer incarnating because you're so highly evolved, you are probably supporting and guiding a soul that has more recently become a guide, but continues to incarnate in order to keep growing, evolving as a soul, cleaning up karma and bringing to earth or bringing to your incarnation your own dharma.
Huh, wow. This just gets deeper and deeper, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's take a question here from Tisha, who says, I feel out of place in a very comfortable life. Does that mean I have something to accomplish, or I'm missing a person in my life, or I'm in the wrong place?
So I wonder if Tisha, so Tisha, I'm just kind of sort of going to guess, the more comfortable our life is, the more we may have just been given a life that was an easy reprieve. That does happen, not often, but it does happen. I would just say, simplistically, if we're in body, we have karma. If we're in body, we also have dharma. So trust, overall, the circumstances we end up dealing with, this is going to be a core piece in this course, is looking for how are your guides showing you what you need to work on? How are the circumstances, the signs, the elements of your current life serving as guidance? Because our guides place experiences in front of us to help us basically keep evolving.
All right, thank you. Let's take a question here from Vimla, who says, how can you distinguish between your soul archetype and personality archetype, as when you age, you can be two very different people?
Well, yes. And Vimla, you're understanding one of the pieces we're going to talk about when we get to the module on soul archetype. And we're going to start with understanding the archetypes, period. The 7 archetypes, we're going to understand where do they come from? How do they build on each other? How does that energy of each archetype, what's the reason it needs to be brought to earth through your incarnation? And then I'm going to be helping everybody figure out what likely is your soul archetype. Let me just say, your soul archetype doesn't change. Lifetime to lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, your soul archetype is unchanging. It's immortal. You also have a personality archetype that is different than your soul archetype, and it changes from lifetime to lifetime because you need to become competent in all the archetypes before you evolve and ascend to the higher levels of serving as a guide.
Okay, thank you. A question here from Larry, who says, can a regression be done without a regression therapist?
Ooh, yes, Larry, thank you for asking that. Yes, it can. And maybe better said, or more easily explained, you can access your past lives by looking at elements of your current life. We'll talk about that in this course. How do your past lives show up in current life? Some of us access pieces of our past lives in our dreams. Some of us, yes, can use our intuitive capability to access our past lives without a formally trained regression therapist. We'll be covering that in this course so that you understand how that happens and how that works.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's do a question from Cynthia, who says, how does suicide fit into the karma or dharma in the life of someone who chose the ending?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a bit of a broad answer. So I have worked with a lot of clients who have either attempted suicide in their current life, or what at times is more common is I work with clients who go to a past life and they discover they ended the past life by taking their life. The responses from their guide vary, or the response per client varies. On rare occasion, and I want to underscore on rare occasion, suicide is planned. It's planned as a teaching, usually, for someone else. Most often, our guides don't prefer that we take our life. Now, do they banish us or cause some harm to us? No. They simply want us to come back and work on the karma. In general, suicide is just simply not a preferred doorway to walk through. But it comes up, having guided so much regression over the years, I would bet that most of us, if not all of us, have had one life where we ended that life through suicide. In some ways, it's a learning process. And I don't mean to minimize, it's an incredibly difficult circumstance for loved ones to experience when someone they know has suicided. But that's my experience with clients, past life, and even having to deal with family members who have taken their life.
Okay, wow. On that note, I'm looking at the clock. We're out of time, and this has been, as usual, just a fascinating hour. We could talk forever. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your insightful questions. Soul Evolution Mastery starts Tuesday, May 29th. And again, you can visit soulevolutioncourse.com to learn more and to register. So before we go, Linda, do you have any final words for our viewers?
Well, I would just say to them, come join us. You're going to be working on your own, to use just a very everyday comment, stuff. You're going to be working on your own issues, deepening your intuition, connecting more deeply with guides and guidance. And then, as I said, understanding your soul archetype, understanding where have you had the bulk of your lives, how are they showing up in life today, how to deal with certain challenges to being here. And I'm especially going to focus on interplanetary past lives. I bet everyone in the course will know someone that is an interplanetary soul, or they themselves are an interplanetary soul. So I'm excited. Come join us. We'll work together as a spiritual community and intertwine our energy. Yeah. So thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Linda. As usual, as I said, it's a fascinating conversation. Thank you for being here with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.